All right, so let's start with the big story that comes in from the United States, where thousands of people gathered to march in Washington on Friday to denounce racism. It also is the anniversary of the march that was held in the year 1963, where the civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. had made his historic speech where he had said, "I too have a dream." Now, the event came on the heels of yet another shooting of a black man, 29-year-old Jacob Blake, by a white police officer in Kenosha in Wisconsin. Thousands of protesters gathered near the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Now, the civil rights advocates on Friday denounced police and the vigilante violence against black Americans. This sparked days of protests and violence that has left 2 protesters dead. Protesters also referred to the importance of voting in the November's election and the link between activism for black civil rights, disability rights and the LGBTQ rights, and also the movement against gun violence, amongst other causes. Los Angeles also joined the nationwide MLK commemoration, where various activists encouraged those attending to use their right to vote. Similar rallies were also held across the country, with the largest one being held in Washington.
Our partners in this collaboration will be on and Maxine Waters.
The families of the United States' most known victims of police brutality made an impassioned plea for justice during the rally outside the Lincoln Memorial. The Blake's father, Jacob Blake, led the crowd, and he said that he was actually marching for all victims of racial discrimination. Now, remember, in a recent similar incident, George Floyd was an unarmed African-American who was killed in Minneapolis after a police officer had kneeled on his neck for 8.5 minutes.
We're going to hold court today. We're going to hold court on systematic racism. We're going to have court right now. Guilty. Yeah. Guilty. 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 Racism against all of us. Guilty. 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 Racism against Trayvon Martin. We find them guilty. Guilty. Racism against George Floyd. We find them guilty. Guilty. Racism against Jacob Blake. Come on. Abdul Dawala. If I said the name wrong, Allah forgive me. Guilty. Guilty. And we're not taking it anymore.
We have mastered the selfie and TikToks. Now we must master ourselves. Less than a year before he was assassinated, my grandfather predicted this very moment. He said that we were moving into a new phase of the struggle. The first phase was the civil rights, and the new phase is genuine equality.
Now, Kamala Harris, the U.S. vice presidential candidate, appeared in a recorded video and referenced John Lewis, the late lawmaker, also spoke at the 1963 March Convention.
Generations before me.
The road ahead, it is not going to be easy. But if we work together to challenge every instinct our nation has to return to the status quo and combine the wisdom of longtime warriors for justice with the creative energy of the young leaders today, we have an opportunity to make history right here and right now. So thank you so much for inviting me to celebrate with you. Let's march on in the name of our ancestors and in the name of our children and grandchildren.